Welcome to episode 2 of our Library TBR challenge. Voted on by my patrons, this is a feature I'm running over on Patreon for a full quarter, and so far, I have been having a ton of fun with this challenge, in particular the random draw aspect. Picking a surprise book to read from over 1,700 titles on my wish list is such a fun spice of variety to my reading that I've been loving it. Although last month, I decided to go with the series. I spent way too long on it, and in hindsight, I probably should have picked just like a single one-off title. So because of that, I still have intention to finish these. I just don't know when I'm going to have the opportunity. But by the end of this 3-month challenge, I would like to have wrapped up the Spirit Animal series because I liked it. The prequel book was good. The first 2 books beyond that were a little rough, but books 3 and 4 have really brought it home. And it does help that each book is written by a different author. So you know, if you don't like one, there's a good chance you probably like the next one. So that would be a good goal. Maybe I can work it in between other reads this month. I don't know, it depends on my schedule. I am learning from this that I am not as fast at getting through books as I used to be. It's a combination of a brain thing. It's a combination of just being overly busy. And it's a combination of prioritizing other projects. I really should be doubling the amount of time that I schedule for each of these reads, but whatever. Do what you can. But since I was able to finish up Funny Story by Emily Henry on my last episode, I am entering this month with kind of a relatively clean slate. I've got a buddy read for Doll Makers by Lynn Buchanan with my patrons kind of in the middle of the month. So this one was one of the ones on my original list of books to read down from in the initial challenge. Very excited about this one. It's not very long. It's this little tiny thing, but I love these sprayed edges. I show it every time I mention this book. Like, this book is so freaking beautiful. Very excited for this one. But until then, I've got a couple weeks on my hands, and I didn't get to do this in the first episode, and it kind of bummed me out. It really wasn't the spirit of the challenge that I wanted. What I would like to do is just take off all of the restrictions on the current holds that I have at the library and let a random book come in. Whichever one hits first is the one that I'm going to check out and read. So of the 9 or so that I have on hold still, let's see what I get. No, I can't do that, even though that's what I want to do, because I really need to make sure that I get my random draw component read in case it's a longer one. This is so funny. I'm probably going to leave in that footage of me telling you what I was going to do and then immediately changing my mind, because that is the story of my life. And I feel like when you create content online, you're able to edit out and curate it, so it just sounds like you've got all of it together. Yeah, I really don't. That is what I would like to do. What I'm actually going to do is do a couple of random number generators and figure out what random component book that I will be reading. And then after that, theoretically, I should have a week to let a random book come in before my buddy read starts. Because beyond that, I also have another buddy read before the end of the month, which will probably take me the rest of the month. But it is one from my list. Stay tuned. It's the first of a new week, and I need to set up my random draw component. So I have on screen a random number generator just on Google. I currently have 1,768 books in my library, TBR. So we're going to pick a couple numbers. We got 552, 548, geez, all those numbers, and it can't have more variety, and 971. So I'll see you in about 3 days when I go through all of my titles to figure out which ones those are, but we'll talk about them, and I'll ultimately be picking one to read. I have my 3 choices from the random draw. First one that came up is Slammed by Colleen Hoover. This book was on my radar before Colleen Hoover was on a lot of people's radar. I think we got the book as an ARC, and my friend read it and really liked it, said I would like it. I was also kind of involved in the slam poetry scene, kind of on the periphery, so it's a world that I was really interested in. And I heard it was really good, so I've added it to my list, but I've never gotten around to reading it. It's also kind of short, like maybe only a 6-hour audiobook, but it's definitely in contention to get read. It's one that I've been carrying along for a while, and it's one of those that I know would be a really good palate cleanser between other things. So interested in that one. The next one was called The Truth About Animals by Lucy Cook. Anything to do with animals and you have my attention, especially wild animals. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, I bet you this would give me so many amazing new facts about animals that I don't know already, which would be kind of hard to do because I make it a point to learn a lot about animals. I watch a ton of documentaries. I collect a lot of books. I have since I was a kid. It's kind of an obsession. So this seemed like a fun anecdotal nonfiction, and it was compared to Bill Bryson, who wrote A Walk in the Woods, something that I absolutely loved, and Mary Roach, who I haven't read but I've bookmarked because she's apparently a really brilliant literary nonfiction writer. And I watched a TED Talk by her that just kind of blew me away. It was so interesting. So anyway, I try not to follow the hype because they will put on the cover what they think will sell books, even if the comparison is only minor. But it has my attention. I love both of those types of works. And the third and final one is called Tranquil by Tuesday by Laura Vanderkam. As you all know, I am trying to simplify my life and get into slow living, and so the vibes of this one really resonate with me. I've also read a book by this author, something about off the clock or something about a clock, and it was an okay book. I feel like it was a little bit more wordy than I think it needed to be, and it could have been more concise, bring its points. And she's a big proponent of time tracking. But she had some good things in there that I still remember. There have been a lot of books in that same vein that I didn't come away with anything new, but there were a couple good points in there. So I'm wondering if she has the skill set to take me on the type of nonfiction journey that I would be hoping to get out of Tranquil by Tuesday. She didn't strike me as a particularly mellow person, but I really enjoyed what I read of her stuff. So I'd be willing to give this one a try, and I thought it was a cool thing that I got a interesting nonfiction to pop up. So after some heavy consideration this morning, I made my decision and started in on my selection, The Truth About Animals. I could not let this opportunity pass me by. This woman is a zoologist and really passionate about animals, and that comes through in her writing. It's like, if I could live vicariously through someone and get another job, zoologist is something that I've always been interested in, but then she's taking that and turning it into a literary nonfiction thing and doing a ton of research and telling these really fun stories, and I'm there for all of it. It is so cool. The woman also started a sloth appreciation society, and I've just finished chapter 2. And all of the information presented is it's really cool. I did know a little bit about the things that she's describing about these animals already, but she adds so much depth to it that it really expanded my world and knowledge in this area, which I love. Okay, let's talk about the audio narration for a minute, though. It's a struggle, and I don't want to be unkind, but it's narrated by the author herself. She's got a very specific British narration where for some reason she increases the pitch level of her voice every third or fourth word for emphasis when it doesn't need to be there. It's ringing my ears, and it's so hard to listen to, and it's making it feel a lot more wordy, making me feel a lot more impatient to get to the point because she's drawing out the language unnecessarily. And it's kind of, it's kind of obnoxious.
But still not nearly as slow as Oviedo or Dampier suggested. I've seen a sloth book it up a tree at a surprising lick, given the right motivation, but they are physically incapable of going faster than a top speed of 1.5 kilometers per hour, since their muscles are engineered to be sluggish, up to 15 times slower than those of an equivalent-sized mammal like a domestic cat.
Listen to a sample, it might be just me, but my very first thought was, oh my gosh, didn't anybody tell her? In production, someone had to produce this audiobook, and her normal speaking voice is okay, but those inflections are just killing it for me. So if I had more time, I'd probably switch to reading physically, but as I only have a few days left in this week to finish up this book before I need to move on to the next one, and I don't have time for that. So it is what it is. Could be just me. I mean, there are people who absolutely hate audio narrators that I love. So it could be just me. I'm at work today, and I'm kind of planning out my reading, and I have a week coming up where I have nothing scheduled. And my nonfiction book is still going well, but I anticipate I'll be done with it by the end of the weekend. So next week, I would like to have a random book from my library hold section come in. So I'm gonna go through right now and change everything from deliver later to deliver as soon as possible, and I will read the first one that pops up. I'll let you know which one that ends up being. I'm moving right along with The Truth About Animals, and I'm enjoying it thoroughly. Each chapter is a deep dive into a specific animal with a bunch of scientific facts or fabrications that have come out throughout the years, and some really cool, interesting biological things about these creatures. And I'm eating up every moment. If you like animals as much as me, I'm finding it highly recommendable. I'm about 30% of the way through. Each chapter is so well self-contained, and there's not a through narrative. So that has kind of given my brain permission to stop after each chapter and dive into a different nonfiction that I picked up. Also a library book. I saw a podcast with Casey Davis talking about mental health and productivity and organization, but in a way that I had never heard done before. And I consume as much content as I can on organization and productivity. So the fact that that one was so uniquely different, I immediately went out and found her audiobook, How to Keep House When You're Drowning. It's only 3 hours long. It's written in a very accessible way. And from this, I am gaining so much insight and help to things that I, to this point, have not been able to solve for myself. Like household things that have just been plaguing me, but she has such a unique perspective. And it's not that perfectly curated, toxic advice that you get from a lot of these books where it's from people who already have it all together. It's a very gentle and compassionate approach, and it encourages you to break the rules and to do what works for you. And I love the snot out of this book. From the very beginning, I just was taking notes and coming up with different plans for my own household, and awesome! So that was a sporadic read, and I'm almost done. I've only got maybe 20 minutes left in the audiobook, but an unexpected read from the library, which is great. And then also last night, I noticed I was really struggling before bed not being able to pick up a physical book to read because the audiobook for the animal one is all I've got. I don't have a physical component. So I decided to go back to the spirit animal books just for the sake of having something to physically hold and read at night. I'm continuing on with Tales of the Beast, which is one of the prequels, and probably about 30% of the way into it so far. And it's probably against my better judgment to have more than one thing going at a time, but it's what I'm doing. I think because I'm almost done with the Casey Davis book and the animal book is in such great consumable chunks that reading this book before bed isn't going to throw me off or put me behind or stress me out or anything. But I'll let you know. I love this challenge so much. I am having so much fun. The act of scrolling through all of those possibilities in my TBR, and as I'm scrolling, seeing a whole bunch of stuff that I'm wildly interested that doesn't exist anywhere on my shelves. Neither on my Goodreads or in my physical collection. And honestly, I think my library TBR is even more compelling than the Audible TBR that I have, that I spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on. So, note to self, hindsight's 2020. But I was trying to figure out a way to do this random draw component every single month because it has been so cool. But I'm like, I'm already maxed out. Like, I've got buddy reads, I've got book clubs, and when this challenge ends, I'm definitely going to have another challenge that I need to read for. So I have no idea what I'm going to do. And also video slots. Like, I can only produce one video a week. That in itself is maxing out all of my time, attention, abilities, all of my resources, and I'm barely hanging on to my schedule. So even if I did find a way to read an extra book a month, how would I report on it? So the thought hit me though, when I do my read reading TBR, I could make that wrap-up feature even more interesting by picking a book for that video and then reporting on whatever I picked on the next wrap-up and then picking again. It could work. I'm not sure if I have the time or the energy or the bandwidth to do all that, but the amount of excitement I have for the books that I'm picking is outweighing common sense on how much time I have at the moment. So I would encourage you to try this challenge. It has been a lot of fun, and definitely it's one that I would like to run again if I can't figure out a way to put it into my routine. A book finally came in. Several books came in at once, but ultimately the one that came in first was Live Suit by James S.A. Corey. This is a novella companion to Mercy of the Gods, book 1 in the Captives War series that came out last year. I heard some underwhelming reviews for that one, but I personally loved it. It's been a year, and things that happened in that book, key players, characters, events, aliens, all of the things are so vivid in my head, and I'm still thinking about it a year later. I can't even tell you the main character's name in a book that I read last week. So that was a great choice, and it's only 3 hours long. I have read it already. So between last update and now, it came in and I completely devoured it. I loved almost all of the novellas in the Expanse series. I feel like they added so much richness to the world, and they very rarely covered a character that was followed in the main series. It was just kind of tangential, and I love that about it. It's a snippet celebration of humanity and the struggles that we go through, and they always do it in such a profound way, and Live Suit was no exception. I'm not sure if any of the people in this novella will actually show up in the main series later on, but it expanded the world to the point where I'm excited. Like, I have a little bit of hope that all is not lost. And while Mercy of the Gods was kind of narrowly focused, this gave us kind of a broader perspective of what's going on within this universe, or universes, as the case may be. So a big success for me. I think I'm coming in at a 3.5 out of 5 stars, which is full star higher than I was predicting I would give it. I've been kind of just stalling on it. But now I want the next book in the series. And there's not even a title or a date on it yet. So I'll just be patient. But after that, I decided to finish up the 5th Spirit Animal book. I think I mentioned that I started this one already. Well, the fact that I put it down to read something else and then picked it back up, it just killed all of the momentum for me. I really wish I'd been able to just sit with this series from start to finish. But from a world building standpoint, including the animals and the location, this is definitely my favorite book so far. And it added a layer of complexity that I wasn't expecting from this middle grade. So as bizarre as it seems, the shark/leopard combination actually worked out well. And like, don't call me crazy, but I think that looks more like a jaguar than a leopard, but we're not gonna split fine hairs. 4 out of 5 stars. I've actually ordered the next set in this series to have for my collection. I found a really screaming deal on Pango for all of them for like 25 bucks. So yeah, bringing those home. It's gonna mess up all of the progress I've been making on reading through my physical TBR, but whatever. So that was pretty good. Anyway, next up, my patrons and I are finally starting Doll Makers by Lynn Buchanan. This is a relatively new release and I'm so excited for, and I will be diving in within the next couple of days and I'll let you know how it goes. I have an update for you. I am just about halfway through Doll Makers and I'm really liking this one so far. I'm reading it with a bunch of patrons. It's a fun read. I'm liking it probably a little more than they are. I'm not much of a character-driven reader, and they are. So the fact that the main character is so unlikable is a problem. And I can totally understand that. It's not really a pleasant person to read about, but I am always on the lookout for something that's just like different from what I've read a million times over. But there is some nice balance here because that's not the only POV we get. The other characters are kind of helping level it out. What is dazzling me so far is the world building and the pacing. I feel like the story clips along at a really good jaunt and all of the reveals are perfectly partitioned. This edition that I'm reading is so cool. There's a couple of illustrations throughout that could just kind of add to the essence of it. And I can just say with confidence that Buchanan is my kind of author. I really like a couple of the different things I see her doing here, and I think the ideas are so cool. There are a couple of things that are sitting weird with me, like implausibilities, like almost maybe an inconsistency in the world building, but it's just like in the back of my head, like to address it would be to not have a novel. So I'm gonna just go with it. But other than that, really good so far. I expect to have it finished by the end of the weekend because it's one of those books that is compulsively readable. I'm really looking forward to diving back into it. Now, another one that I picked up, I didn't really do this for the sake of completionism, but Tranquility by Tuesday, one of my random draw picks that I ended up not picking up, I started it. In a roundabout way, a friend and I were discussing how we feel really overwhelmed. There's just like a million things to do. How do you find peace and also still get a lot of stuff done? Now, I was kind of hoping this book would tell me how to just have less to do, like how to like wave a magic wand and be like, hey, suddenly I'm free from all obligations and I can just focus on things that give me joy and zen. It's not quite how it's going, big bummer, but what she is offering are 9 rules that if you follow them, you will be just that percentage more tranquil by the end of her regiment, if you will. And I'm doing it in earnest. She recommends implementing one per week, and I've started rule number 1, which is set yourself a bedtime. And I'm just kind of taking notes as I go, because like I've got all the productivity systems down. But now my next level up, the layer that I'm peeling back, is also trying to feel like I'm living more simply and being more present in the moment. And so any strategy that I can add to that arsenal would be great. So I'm interested to see what she has. She's really big on time tracking. So she's recorded every single minute of what she's done for the last like 10 years and has looked at a bunch of other people's time trackers. I don't really have the patience for that, but what I have been doing is time blocking. And I can go back and look at my notes on how I've blocked my time and see what that's done for me. Anyway, little too early to tell if it's going to be helpful or not, but I like it. So that's what I got going on. I have perhaps one more week in this month. By the time I see you again, I will have finished Dollmakers and moved on to the next library hold lead, Heretics of Dune. I'm not super thrilled for this one. Ergo, should I be reading it? I don't know, but there is something really motivating, the fact that I'm reading it with patrons. I'm willing to see it through, even though it's probably a lot lower priority than everything else I've got going on. But Herbert surprises me. Like, I always end up liking his books more than I think I will. I mean, that first one was amazing. The second one was a little weird. The third one was great. The fourth one was really weird. So I'm due for a good one again. I've mentioned this before, but one of my favorite things about utilizing the library is the ability to shop new titles, new releases, or new acquisitions that the library picks up and add them to my TBR without any cost to myself. Like, just going through and doing my random draw highlights to me how many obscure but amazing books are sitting on there waiting to be explored. So I'd like to take a minute to share some of the new acquisitions my library picked up this last month, things that just stood out that might be fun to explore. And just to put it in perspective, like, I don't do a ton of research on these books. I just go by title and cover appeal and subtitle, and if it sounds like fun, I add it. It doesn't need to pass any regiment like I would if I were bringing something home. So the first acquisition, A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is one of those new releases where I already hope to get to the series anyway, so I just immediately added it. Oh yes, awesome to know that that book is out. Cannot wait to get to that one. It's one of my high priority series to start eventually. So that one's ready to go. Battle Cry of the Siamese Kitten by Philip Schott. It's like stories from an accidental veterinarian. Actually, it says more stories, so apparently there was a first one, but my library doesn't have a copy. But I love stuff like this. There was a No Bad Dogs or something like that that John Grogan put out as a companion to the Marley and Me stories, and I just love animal stuff. And so those, like, especially since having read Truth About Animals by Lucy Cook for the project, this sounds in the same vein awesome. I think it would be a lot of fun. What Your Body Knows About Happiness by Janice Kaplan. I'm not so much interested in becoming happier as I am about the fact that the body remembers. And coming from like a trauma standpoint, I know that like your body does a lot of things that you don't even consciously realize that affects your mood and well-being. And I'm so fascinated with that right now. It's like the psychology of it. And so this sounds like someone who has done a lot of research on it, and I want to dig a little deeper. And things like, you've heard this, like if you stand up straighter, you exude more confidence, like you feel more confident. Body posture makes a big difference, especially when interacting with other people. Things like that. I'm very curious, so more to come. Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry was released, and I am so excited. The library has 2 copies right now, and I am number 200 and whatever in line, which means there's like 500 people waiting for these 2 copies. I would like to read it sooner than next year, so hopefully they buy more copies, but if they don't, I might just like splurge and buy myself an Audible. But that one is on hold because I've been doing a good job reading through my library holds for this challenge, and I had an open spot, so that one. I bookmarked Mez's Magic by Elliot Schreifer. I've been reading the Spirit Animal series, and this is the one I'm on with the author, essentially showcasing in the book how much he really loves animals, And from that, I was like, I wonder what other things this author has written. Turns out there's like a rainforest with a capybara on the cover, so I'm sold. Like, most people don't even know what a capybara is. My kind of person. So this is middle grade, I think, but it looks like fun. It's a trilogy. All of the covers look very animated. So I added that one of my own accord. Hunt, Gather, Parent by Micheline Duclet. I was listening to a YouTuber, I think her name is Paper Town Home, but she was discussing books that are really good for child raising. And this one stood out to me. Like, people in different cultures than my own have a really different way of handling children, and they include children in more of what they're doing on their day-to-day activities. So it's not like, hey, mom's cooking, you're over there playing. No, the kids are involved in things that mom's doing, and they learn that way. And kind of this sense of purpose that it gives the kids, but then also behavioral things are a lot different because they've got a role. I just think it's such a cool concept, and that's me paraphrasing based on not having read the book yet, but that's what I gleaned about what it's about, and I love that idea. So I am picking this one up. Full disclosure, I was like, oh, I can have my kid help me cook, and then 5 minutes into that yesterday, I was like, nope, go watch a movie. Parenting's hard. All right, this one popped up, Sustainable Minimalism by Stephanie Marie Seferian. Those are two buzzwords I really like. I am on a minimalism journey. Books are included in that, but they are my one indulgence. So it's very hard to tell that I'm doing that. But I also am very curious about the sustainable aspect of it. I've been shifting a lot of products to support sustainable brands and really paying attention to my consumerism thing. Random tangent, I did set in my personal goals at the beginning of the year that I was only going to buy 100 things this year. Based on the fact that I'm only on month 4, I'm already a little over, but the intentionality of it I'm loving. I'm being very careful about what I bring home. I'm annoying to live with though, because anytime my husband wants to bring something home, I'm like, are we sure we need that? We don't need that, we're fine. Welcome to my life. The Gut-Brain Paradox by Stephen Gundry. There has been so much interesting research lately about the gut microbiome and how it affects our moods, and treating your gut better, feeding yourself a more well-rounded natural diet without processed foods and sugars and focusing on like plants and whatnot, evidently goes a long way towards improving your mood and your overall well-being. And I am just absolutely fascinated by this stuff right now. And I do think it's really cool that a lot of this stuff is starting to get into the mainstream, because I read a book where the guy talked about, this was like 3 or 4 years ago, variety of foods and how eating not the same thing all the time and increasing the amount of different foods that you're eating is what is the key to overall health. And the microbiome is part of that equation. And I love that there's a word for it now. So, interested in that one. That one might get read without a random draw. The 7 O'Clock Club by Amelia Ireland. This is 100% something I found while I was scrolling the new releases, and I thought that looks like something completely different than what I have read. It's a fiction book, and I can't even remember the synopsis, but something about these women all struggling with different things decide to meet at 7 o'clock once a week and kind of work through things. And I am incredibly interested in psychology. And so I would be curious to see how the dynamic of everybody kind of working together through their problems works out. It's a fiction book. It's not like a heavy psychology one, but that's my appeal to it. And the cover's cool. But along those same lines, I came across one called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. I missed my calling as a psychotherapist, but I think it's for the best because I don't find myself very comfortable in one-on-one interactions with people. That's probably my holdup, but I am an amazing armchair psychologist. I love some competition reality TV shows, mostly for the social dynamic of it and seeing like cause and effect and like trying to analyze people's motives. I'm so fascinated with this stuff. I got really into the show Couples Therapy on, I think, Showtime. Not for the drama aspect, but for the, like, getting into the grittiness of why people behave the way they do and why we find it so difficult to do something different, like these loops that we get ourselves in. And so this book is so interesting. It's like a psychologist and her patients, but then she also has a therapist that she works with, and so just this dynamic of self-awareness I think I would really like that one. It's surprising me how many nonfiction books I am gravitating towards. There's not been a lot of fantasy stuff that's come out lately that's just really grabbed my attention, mostly just new releases from authors that I love. But this nonfiction stuff, I read nonfiction now like I used to read not anything as a kid, where I'm not concerned about getting through a massive list. I pick up anything that looks interesting and just bask with it. And there's no agenda. There's no like, I don't have to plan my reading. I just read whatever feels good, whatever sounds interesting. And that's what I used to do with everything when I was a kid. And I'm, as a science fiction fantasy reader, trying to figure out how to get back to that. But at least there is some aspect of my reading that I still have a ton of fun with, and that's nonfiction, oddly. I remember working as a bookseller like 15 years ago where we were selling we called them self-help books. And I used to just laugh and be like, I am never going to read anything from any of these sections. Like, I just am not interested in that crap at all. You get a little older and you get a little baggage. And suddenly that stuff sounds pretty good. And I like especially like the self-development stuff, like Atomic Habits and Productivity, whatever. Okay. Goblin Mode by Michaela Coyle. This title stood out to me immediately, and it's about embracing your inner goblin. What struck me about it is the level of self-acceptance and celebration of the things that kind of make you a goblin on the day-to-day basis. And I would really like to explore what that one's about. Something about it, I don't know if it's going to resonate with me too much, but I really like the overall concept. So that got added. And then finally, I got this as a recommend from Cal Newport's podcast, How to Winter by Carrie Lebowitz. Harness your mindset to thrive on cold, dark, or difficult days. What appeals to me about this one is the seasonality of it, like accepting that there are times when things are a little darker, you can't get outside as much, whether it be health reasons or actually because of the physical weather. I like that. And I've read a few things on the Danish way of handling winters, like the hygge stuff, and I'm hoping it'll give me more of those vibes on how to make certain seasons of life feel more cozy and comfortable. Not that there's extensive winters where I live right now. I mean, the UV index where I am, it's only April, is already up into like the 8 or 9s on the scale, which is ridiculous, but that sounded cool. So those are the highlights of the new releases that have come out over the last month. Like, I actually left a good 10 or so of them off the list of things that got added. These were just the most interesting ones. And it just continues to strike me that if I wanted to, I could sustain my entire reading life just by reading 1 or 2 books a month from those new releases as they come in, and be totally happy. Like, there's so much cool stuff. And it just, the abundance, man, like so many things that we could be using to occupy our time. It just highlights more and more that I really should not be wasting time on books and series that don't evoke that, like, wow. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. So I'm going to resist the urge to feel overwhelmed by the fact that there are so many books on there that I would like to read ASAP but won't have time to, and just really try to bask in the fun things that I've got reading right in front of my face. So thank goodness for this challenge, though, because normally those books get added and then they just sit on a list that I never look at for years. But with this challenge, at least I know that they have a shot of getting picked. That's all you can ask. I did indeed finish Dollmakers by Lynn Buchanan by the end of the weekend. And from about the point that I filmed my update, about halfway through the book, all the way through the end, it was an absolute careen. I had so much fun with this thing. It was addictive. I kept coming back to it, even though I had other things going on over the weekend. I loved the snot out of this book. She took some risks by having an unlikable character. All the things that I was concerned about, like those little things hanging in the back of my head that was like, I don't know if this is plausible or not, she addressed. It got resolved. Like, I now feel completely satisfied with this book from start to finish. And this is cool. Okay. I read this with my patrons, and mixed reviews, but overall, they had trouble with the main character being so unlikable. And for me, I love the risk Buchanan took by making her that way, because I think it made for an excellent character growth arc over the story, and we're only at the very budding beginnings of what it can be going forward. Just so wildly creative. One of my favorite books, my first 5-star find since February of 2024. I've been reading over 100 books in between, and I finally found another one. And I love that I have this beautiful signed edition to keep a place of honor on my shelves. I cannot wait to see what this author comes up with next. There's definitely going to be more in this series. I am all for that. I will probably hound for an arc. Like, I liked it that much. So good. Going to be hard to recommend though, because it's not for everybody, especially if you're a heavily character reader. You might struggle. That was a wild success. So finishing this marks the third book I've read from my Library TBR. And then I was initially going to do the full 9-week program with Tranquility by Tuesday, but then I thought, I don't have that kind of patience. Like, I just want the gist of it, and then from there I can make myself a 9-week program if I want. Laura Vanderkam gets cited a lot as someone who's really creative with time management and finding pockets of available time to do important things where you would think that you really don't have that much time. She's definitely an expert on the category. Figuring out ways to squeeze more things in was not exactly what I was hoping to get out of this book. The strategies are sound. Every single thing she talks about has a lot of merit. But I am at the point where I want to stop trying so many different strategies and instead focus on just doing one thing at a time and really basking in certain things and being willing to let everything that's not getting done go, which probably explains why I picked up Meditations for Mortals again in the middle of reading all of this other stuff. It's like a daily 8-minute audiobook snippet on exactly what I'm hoping to get out of Tranquility by Tuesday. So reading that one. But not to say that Vanderkam's book isn't valuable. There's a lot of really good ideas in here, and I think the essence of all of the 9 rules will stick with me, and I'll think about them when I'm making my daily plan. But I am really shying away from certain things that are calling for more regiment rather than less. I feel like I need to just like let go and be for a while. But good read. Something about the delivery of these books, this is the second one I've read by her. I don't come away from it thinking, wow. And I don't know that that's her fault necessarily. Like, there are some excellent ideas in here. They're just not profound. They're very practical, which might be exactly what someone needs. So I'm going to give it a 3-star, but I think it's worth a 4. But then coming off of Dollmakers, I immediately picked up Heretics of Dune by Frank Herbert, book 5 in the Dune series. And I am struggling with this one. With how engaged I was with Dollmakers, with the kind of more modern, very fun, fast-paced storytelling, to 25% into this book so far, and it's 100% cerebral with no action. I mean, we're just discussing stuff over and over again in the interhouse politics, and it's interesting, but it's not what I'm in the mood for right now. I feel like I'm forcing myself through it. If it weren't for the fact that it was a buddy read, I would have definitely set it aside for other things. And in fact, I'm kind of taking a break from it. I figure I'll hit the quarter mark and then I'll read something short and then I'll go back and read another quarter and so on until I finish the thing. At this point, Dune is a series I would like to have read. And I really love the first book, but from there it's been good, but it's not been what's been driving my mood to read lately. And honestly, on paper, like the components on this one, I'm liking more than in 2 of the other Dune books that I've read so far, so I should be enjoying this more. I think it's just a mood thing. I'm feeling very coming into the summer with like lighthearted, wanting some fun reads. I've been doing a ton of serious fantasy tomes over the last 6 months, and I'm ready to just have some fun for a while. Read some YA, read some romance, read some fun fantasy like Dollmakers. So Dune is just like dragging me. But because I don't have a physical copy of Dune, it's audio only, I've been reading something before bed. Spirit Animals, Rise and Fall, book number 6. So I only have 1 more to go after this before I finish that initial set of Spirit Animals, which, great. If I ever do one of these challenges where I'm supposed to read a one-off and then I end up picking a series, like, reach through the screen and slap me. Because I would be enjoying this one a lot more if I didn't have so many other things going on. It was just a really inopportune time to start something. And what's more, the first 7 books, great, the initial set, but then I found out there's an additional set, and I'm liking these enough that I'd actually like to read those. So going through and reading everything off my list, reducing the number of books that I own, awesome! I knocked off 7 books already. Yeah, and then I went and bought the next set because I'm a completionist. So I probably shouldn't have started it, is all I'm saying. But this one's been good so far. This is an African take. Elliot Schreifer, the first time I've ever heard of him. And I am liking the components and how much he seems to love animals enough that I'm interested in checking out other works by him eventually. So I'm on the cusp of this weird week cutoff where I could either end the video now or go one more week and then end the video. And I think I'm probably going to go one more week. But I bring that up because I was detailing out all of the books that I had initially had on hold at my library and realizing that, including Heretics of Dune, I've done 2 months of this challenge and I have only read 4 books from that list. And I was hoping to read all 10, which was ambitious, I know. And I don't know how I was planning to read all of that, considering how many other things I have going on, plus the random draw. But next month, I've kind of blocked it off a little bit. There's not going to be as many buddy reads. We are doing a book club, but other than that, I've blocked off a bunch of time to focus specifically on this challenge because it will be my final month of the challenge unless we vote to extend it. But yeah, even if we vote to extend it, I'll probably want to add new titles and focus on all of those and kind of move on a little bit. But I have scheduled out, I'm going to try to sneak one in over this next week, and then in the next month, I am going to try to read 5 of them, which 2 of them are short stories, but I've actually budgeted out the time and figured that it is actually reasonable that I should be able to get through it. Everything but one. We'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be fun because all of the rest of the ones I have on the list I'm excited for. The only one I probably won't start is Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, specifically because I want to do a buddy read for that one. And I'm not really interested in starting a new series right now because I'm going to want to dive in fully. Next month will be a wrap-up month, but as of right now, by the end of this month, I'm hoping to read, between my Henri bouts with Heretics of Dune, I want to pick up Adrift in Currents Clean and Clear by Sheena and McGuire. It's book 10 or something in the Wayward Children series. This one has been a long time coming. It's been out since January and I haven't read it yet, but I would really like to. So I've checked this one out from the library already, and hopefully I'll be done with it by the end of the week. And then my patron Dave and I are reading So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport, one of my gurus. Love that author so much. This is one of the few books that I haven't read from him, and I'm feeling that budding creativity and like solidifying myself at work and things like that. And I kind of want to bask in the essence of just like improving yourself, making yourself invaluable in whatever way that would apply. So there's 2 more I'm hoping to knock out by the end of the month. Final check-in. I have finished 2 books. So finished The Spirit Animals, and I officially only have 1 more to go before I'm done with that initial set. So that was good. Really like that one. It's so hard to rate them because they're middle grade. They're not as sophisticated as a high fantasy. So even if there's like emotional components and things that really make you feel for the characters, well, I need to stop myself right there because Bartimaeus is a middle grade series, and that one still has stuck with me. It was so freaking good. For what it is, it's very simple. I'm gonna say like a 3 out of 5 stars. I liked it. I picked up Adrift in Currents Clean and Clear, and yay, another favorite of the series so far. There have been 4 standout books out of the 10 that have been written, and I loved this one. It was turtle heavy, which is what you're expecting when there's a turtle on the cover. This one was awesome. It was a really well-contained side story. Some of the books in this series really continue the narrative of all the children at the Wayward School. This one was a complete tangent where we were totally outside of that, following a new character. At least I think they're new. It's 1 book every year or so. If she did exist as a minor character in the series previously, I missed it somehow, but I don't hang on to names very well. In any case, I loved this one. I thought it was beautifully done. And McGuire continues to tackle tough issues in a way that's accessible, and she's very inclusive in her writing. I'm coming in at a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Not quite as good as in An Absent Dream, but had a lot of the same qualities as that one. And then Heretics of Dune, my library hold expired, but I also have determined that I need to pick this one up physically. There's too much room for my brain to just get bored and go do other things when it's on audio format. So I think I need to get a physical copy of this book and continue from there. But it'll be a while because I kind of missed Like, I had it scheduled out, and now I have the next couple of months scheduled out with things that I'd like to read, so it'll be a while before I get back to it. But like, it wasn't a bad book, it was just dry. Like, you really needed to be in it, and these 5-minute chunks of time that I have to read were really not serving that book very well. And I feel like in different circumstances, I will like it a lot more. And so it feels kind of disloyal to the series to push myself through it when I'm not in the right headspace. So I set that one aside. Because I did that, I freed myself up for the next week or so to read a couple of books holds from my list that I've been meaning to get to. So I let the first one that became available check out, and that ended up being Shadow of the Giant by Orson Scott Card. This one I don't think was on my initial hold list, now that I'm thinking about it, because it was available immediately, so there was no hold to put it on, but it was one of the ones that was very high priority. It's the final book in the initial set of Shadow books by Card. I have just learned after doing some research that there are more beyond this that he wrote later. I would like to get to those, but for now, I'm about halfway through this thing. If you would take every single component that's in this book, like the plot ideas, the characters we're covering, like a percentage of how long we're following each of these characters, and the overall trajectory of the book, and write it down and hand it to me and said, is this something you want to read? I would say no. Like, none of the things on paper sound appealing to me, but Card has this magnetic quality to his writing where I find myself wildly interested in things that I would have never thought possible. It's kind of opening up new possibilities for me because, oh, okay, maybe I haven't liked these things in the past because I just haven't found an author who did them well, which is the case with most people who don't like reading in general. So this book, I wildly entertained, so much more than I thought I would be, to the point where it's definitely, like, right now, if I were to stop reading, it'd be a 4-star read, solid. Not at anywhere near as good as Ender's Shadow, which of all the things I read, shocked me. That was my favorite book of the year that I read it, and it's still one of my favorite things I've read in the last 5 years. It was such a good book. The thing I'm missing from this book a little bit is the psychoanalysis. It's in here, but it's not as strong, and that's the thing that I think tipped those other books over the scale for me. I love that kind of stuff. So, really good. We'll probably finish within the next couple of days, which is great because I need to start my next challenge for next month because we are officially at the first of the final month in this challenge for me. And overall, it's been a ball. I forgot to mention, because I'm reading it so slowly, So Good They Can't Ignore You is still in progress. I'm within the first couple of chapters, and we're just going through reading about a chapter a day. So it'll be a while before I finish that one, so it will be included in the next video also. I don't have any of my notes in front of me, but I think Abandoning Heretics and Completing Adrift puts me at 5 books from my initial TBR list of 10 that I had established. So that's pretty good. So I have 5 more to read within the next month, and I think I'm going to do all but one of them. And then quite a few bonus books, obviously. This video was like chock full of things I hadn't planned on reading, but managed to squeeze in there anyway. I need to slow down a little bit going forward. This video series runs on Patreon a full quarter ahead of when it runs on the main channel. So if you want to participate in our challenges in real time, link to my Patreon is in the description. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully catch you on the next one. Bye.